Good evening, lovely little heron shores. I hope you're all snuggled up in your beds and ready to go to sleep. So here's my story, and it's called I'm Not Scary, and it's by Rahat Kaduji. Okay, let's have a look. Deep in a forest, in a gnarly old oak tree, lived a lovely little bat. The forest was so dark and his tree was so gnarly, no one ever dared to visit him. So every night when bats come out to play, Bat would fly off in search of a friend. I think he's a bit lonely. He'd swoop from house to house across the forest, but the other animals were terrified when they saw his shadow. It's a monster, squeaked the mice. Hide, cried the squirrels. Beatty, the little bear, peeked out nervously. I bet the monster eats bears for breakfast, she said. And Bat would fly home again, alone. Back in his cosy home, Bat would cheer himself up by baking. He just loved making delicious things to eat. Night after night, he'd take cakes and pies and buns for visitors that never came. You see all the delicious cakes. One autumn day, the other animals were gathering food for the winter. Everyone was busy filling baskets with apples and nuts and berries. I'm going to pick the most, said Beatty. She grabbed the biggest basket and set off into the forest. Don't go too far, called the others. Remember, the monster. But Beatty was already on her way. She picked more and more and walked deeper into the forest. She didn't even notice that it was getting dark. But then she came to... Oh my goodness, look at this. The biggest, gnarliest old tree she'd never ever seen. It was the perfect tree for a monster to live in. A monster who ate bears for breakfast. In fact, she could smell cooking now. Beatty was about to run when she realised the monster's cooking smelled rather good. Fresh bread and apple pies. Her tummy rumbled and she thought, perhaps I could just climb up and take a look. Bat was startled to hear a sound outside the house. Did he have a visitor? Then a huge furry paw reached through his window. Bat squeaked in fear. Eek! The monster! Cried Beatty, and she tumbled down with a bump. Then a voice called. Are you all right? Said a tiny little but flustered voice over her head. I was running from the monster, said Beatty. Bat sighed. I wish they'd stop saying that about me. There isn't any monster. There's only me. No one ever wants to be my friend. They're all too scared. I'll be your friend, said Beatty. She was wondering what they could play when a bat asked, do you like bacon? Next morning, Beatty's friends were very worried. She'd been gone all night. What if she'd met the monster? They raced through the forest, following her paw prints. We're coming, Beatty, they cried. We'll find you. They're off running, looking for their friend. Suddenly, they spotted Beatty's basket and all the food she'd gathered. This must be the monster's house, and they could smell cooking. "The monster's eating Beatty for breakfast," cried the mice. Fox banged on the door. "Monster, give us our friend back!" Then everyone howled and squeaked and made such a hullabaloo they didn't hear the window open. Out peeped Beatty's head. "Beatty, you're safe. We thought you'd bet the monster." "I have," said Beatty. "In fact, he's coming down right now to let you in." The animals gasped and then laughed. "That's not a monster. That's a tiny little bat." Bat looked at the crowd of animals and smiled. "I think we're going to need a lot more cake." So everyone crowded into Bat's house, and together they baked and laughed, and Bat shared his best recipes. Look at that, they all look so happy together now. That night, and many nights after, the animals feasted by the beautiful, gnarly old oak tree, and they always loved to tell their favourite story of the scary monster, the brave bear, and the friendly little bat who loved to bake. And that's the end of our story. I hope you enjoyed that, and night night, take care. We'll see you in the morning.